Hello everyone, my name's Chen. I'm from UMass Amherst. I'll be presenting our work, Open-Retrieval Conversational Question Answering. Conversational search is one of the ultimate goals of information retrieval. Conversational QA can be considered as a simplified but concrete setting of conversational search. Previous works approach conversational QA by simplified settings of response ranking and conversational machine comprehension. For response ranking, we rank a given candidate set, and for conversational MC, we extract an answer from a given passage. Both settings neglect the fundamental role of retrieval in conversational search. Therefore, we are adopting an open retrieval ComQA setting where we learn to retrieve evidence from a large collection before extracting answers. We illustrate the importance of OR-ComQA by characterizing this task and discussing the considerations of an OR-ComQA dataset. The first one is open retrieval. This is a defining property of OR-ComQA. We argue that a ComQA system should be able to retrieve candidate passages from a collection since Go passages are not always available. It is desirable if this retriever is learnable and can be fine-tuned on the downstream ComQA task. Moreover, the retrieval process should be open in terms of retrieving from a large collection instead of re-ranking a small number of passages in a closed set. The second is conversational. Being conversational reflects the interactive nature of a search activity. The important problem of user interaction modeling in IR can be formulated as conversational history modeling in this scenario. The third is information seeking. In information-seeking conversations, complex information needs are often fulfilled by a sequence of interactions. The answers are often generally longer than those in factoid QA. And the last one is genuine information needs. An information-seeking conversation is closer to real-world scenarios if the seeker is genuinely seeking an answer. In datasets like Squad, the seeker's information needs are not genuine because they have access to the passage and have the target answer in mind when asking the question. This property makes the models learned from such datasets less practical. To the best of our knowledge, there has not been a publicly available dataset that satisfies all the properties we discussed. We'll address this issue by aggregating existing data to create the OR-Quark dataset. This is an example of our dataset. We have a self-contained information-seeking dialogue and example passages retrieved from the collection. We now describe how we construct the dataset. The Quark dataset contains real human-human dialogues between an information seeker and an information provider. The seeker tries to learn about a hidden Wikipedia text by asking a sequence of free-form questions. They have access to the title and the summary of the articles only. This simulates a genuine information need. A drawback of Quark is that many dialogues are not self-contained. This is typically caused by incomplete initial questions. For example, the seeker in Quark is instructed to learn about Zhang Heng, a Chinese polymathic scientist. The very first question the seeker asked was, what did he have to do with science and technology? Such ambiguous initial questions make the conversation difficult to interpret in an open retrieval setting. We tackle this issue by replacing initial questions in Quark with their context-independent rewrites in the Canard dataset. For example, the rewrite of this question is, what did Zhang Heng have to do with science and technology? We do the replacement for the first questions only. On the collection part, we use the whole Wikipedia corpus to construct a collection. We split the articles into chunks with at most 384 word pieces using the tokenizer of BERT. We do the split to make the passages fit for transformer-based models. Moreover, another work reported that the paragraph level is the best granularity for an end-to-end retrieve and read framework compared to the article and sentence levels. The resulting collection has over 11 million passages for retrieval. We follow the data split of Canard. Quark questions not in Canard are discarded. The data statistics of our data is presented in this table. Now we formally define the task. Given the key question QK in the conversation and all history questions preceding QK, the task is to predict and answer AK for QK using a passage collection C. We'll adopt an extractive setting where AK is a text span of a passage in C. Extractive models are trained on the supervision signals of the position of the span in the GOAT passage. We adopt a fully supervised setting, meaning that we assume we have access to GOAT passages so that we can include them if they are not present in the retrieval results, so that we can use the ground truth answer spans. This is done at training time only. We now present an end-to-end OR-COM-QA system. The passage retriever first retrieves top K relevant passages from the collection, given a question and its history. The passage re-ranker and reader then re-rank and read the top passages to produce an answer. All components are learnable. We first look at the passage retriever. We use a dual encoder architecture to construct a learnable retriever. It has separated encoders for questions and passages. We first reformat the current question by prepending history questions and the initial question. The initial question Q1 typically contains an information need that is pertinent to the entire conversation. We then feed the question to an Albert encoder and project the CLS representation to a 128-dimensional vector as the question representation. We do the same to passages to obtain passage representations. Finally, the retriever score is defined as the dot product of the representations of a question and a passage. For the reader, we mostly follow the standard structure of a BERT-based MC model. The reader and re-ranker share the same BERT encoder. Similar to retriever, we first construct a reformatted question by prepending history questions within a window. We then concatenate the retrieved passage to form the input sequence for the BERT model. The start and end token scores are projections of token representations. In addition to that, we also learn a re-ranking vector to project the CLS representation to a re-ranking score. The re-ranking task adds little additional cost to the training process, and it can provide more supervision signals to fine-tune the encoders. Our training procedure contains two phases, a retriever pre-training phase and a concurrent learning phase of the retriever, re-ranker, and reader. In the retriever pre-training phase, we want to train a single retriever for all history window sizes. So we use the rewrite in Canard as the reformatted questions. We will mitigate the question mismatch issue by fine-tuning the question encoder in the concurrent learning phase. Given a batch of N question representations and their GOAT passage representations, we obtain the retrieval score for the batch. The passage other than the GOAT passage in this batch are considered as randomly sampled negative passages. After pre-training, we encode all passages in the collection C offline with the passage encoder and obtain a set of passage vectors. Finally, we use FICE, a library for efficient similarity search of dense vectors, to create an index for maximum inner product search. At the concurrent learning phase, we retrieve the top 5 passages for the reader from the passage collection using the same index we just created. If the GOAT passage of the current question is not present in the retrieval results, we manually include it. These passages are then fed into the reader re-ranker module. We apply the shared normalization mechanism to this step to maximize the probabilities of the true start and end tokens among all tokens from the passages. This makes the model produce start and end scores that are comparable across passages. In the concurrent learning phase, we want to use a relatively large amount of negative samples to fine-tune the question encoder in the retriever. Therefore, we also retrieve the top 100 passages for an aggressive update of the retriever. Although the gradients of the reader ranker do not backpropagate to the retriever, we train these modules concurrently so that the reader ranker can benefit from seeing more negative passages due to a dynamically changing set of retrieved passages. At inference time, we mostly follow the same process in the concurrent learning phase. We obtain the reader score as the maximum sum of start and end token scores. Finally, the overall score is defined as the sum of the retrieved score, ranker score, and reader score. The system outputs the answer span that has the largest overall score. We compare to Dr. QA and Bersarini. We adapt them to a conversational setting using the same history modeling method in our model. Dr. QA uses a TF-IDF retriever and an RNN-based reader, while Bersarini uses a BM25 retriever in Serini and a BERT reader. We also compare to our model without considering conversation history. This is our experimental results. We observed that Dr. QA has poor performance. The reason could be that the RNN-based reader in Dr. QA can be less effective than the BERT model. Also, Dr. QA cannot handle unanswerable questions natively. Another observation is that Bersarini has a significant improvement over Dr. QA and serves as a much stronger baseline. It addresses the issues in Dr. QA by using a BERT reader that can handle unanswerable questions. BM25 in Serini also gives better retrieval performance. Our model without any history manages to perform on par with Bersarini that considers history. In particular, our learned retriever achieves higher performance on retrieval metrics since our reader is similar to that of Bersarini. The overall performance gain mostly comes from our learned retriever, suggesting that a learned retriever is crucial in this task. Our model with history modeling has this statistical significant improvement over the strongest baseline, indicating that incorporating conversation history is essential for oral ConQA. We now conduct ablation studies on our best model. By removing the re-ranker from the full system, we observe a degradation in the overall performance. The reason is that the reader overfits before the retriever has enough fine-tuning to produce reasonable retrieval performance. This verifies our assumption that the additional re-ranking task can provide regularization effect for the encoder. Replacing the learned retriever with TF-IDF causes a dramatic performance drop. This further verifies our observation that a learnable retriever is crucial for oral ConQA. When we do not additionally include the first question of the dialogue for the retriever, we observe a significant performance decrease. This validates our observation that the initial question for a dialogue often contains a general information need that is pertinent to the entire dialogue. To conclude, in this work, we introduce an open-retrieval conversational QA setting as a future step towards conversational search. We create a dataset, or Quark, and build an end-to-end system for our ConQA. We show that a learnable retriever is crucial in this task. For future work, we will study weak supervision methods for information-seeking conversations and a retriever that is not only learnable, but also tunable for the downstream task. Thank you for listening.